Why, hello there, my name is Alex and you are watching Theme Park Freak. Today I thought I'd go over my top 10 tips for planning a Florida holiday from the UK. Part 1. Before we start the video, I'd like to do a quick note. I'm only putting this in 2 parts to ease the work on my editor, Joe. Hi Joe. Also, I'd like to please ask you to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel and put the bell on and everything, because I want to do more content like this. I've already got part 2 planned and another version of this, but for Disneyland Paris. But without any further ado, let's get on with it. My first tip is to stay in a villa. Now I know they may be a bit more expensive than, let's say, the Disney hotels. Well, that's something I thought I'd never say. But, yeah, they might be a bit more expensive than some of the Disney hotels and the Universal hotels and, like, the other hotels all around the Orlando area. But, if you want to have an easier holiday, you need the space that a villa gives you. Like, especially if you're in a family group of 4 or more, it makes a massive difference because everyone gets their own room. You're not all crowded in one room. Also, most villas will have a private covered pool, which is really useful if you need to cool down after a busy day at one of the parks, or not wanting to share with like tens, if not hundreds of other people. Also, it's much better because they have like a living area and everything like that. I'd suggest, actually, on the first day, what you do is, when you're coming from the airport, stop at Walmart, stock up for the holiday. Like, depending on how long you're there, you might need to do 2 trips, one in the middle. Definitely stay in a villa. It'll make sure that you guys don't get sick of each other as easily as you might if you're staying in a hotel. But yeah, that's tip number 1. So tip number 2 is to use a lesser known travel agent. So I know that you might be tempted to go on holiday with like one of the bigger travel agents like Virgin Holidays and TUI, purely for the fact that you think you might get a more reliable holiday. But if you go with a smaller, lesser known travel agent, then you're getting a much better deal for a holiday, like possibly, and it's still going to be the same quality. You're going to be going with the same airlines, going to be going with all the other things, plus like everything's a lot cheaper. But yeah, I'm not really talking about your local travel agency that's run by the family down the road. I'm talking about the like the medium-sized companies that are basically the bigger ones, but like smaller scale. Like they don't have as many destinations and like not as many workers, but they'll still have just as good deals as the other parks. Of course, you'll need to buy your own tickets, which is another tip coming up in part 2. Yeah, it's a lot cheaper if you do it that way. Real quick, make sure that you have travel insurance and that the website that you've found it on is ATOL and ABTA protected, because if not, then you're risking your holiday being ruined by something. So tip 3 is a long one, but it's very useful. So try to go in either January or February, purely for these 3 reasons that I'm about to list to you now. Reason 1 is it'll be a lot calmer than summer. Like everyone knows that the parks in Florida, the Disney ones especially, can get really crowded, but during the earlier months of the year, like January, February, it's really not as bad because like the Christmas events are gone, there aren't really many events going on, so no one's really going. Also, they'll want to go during the hotter months, which brings me on to reason 2. It's not going to be as hot as the summer season. One of the major drawbacks to going to Orlando is the heat and the humidity, and it really bugged me when I went. But if you go in January or February, it's really not as warm. I'm not saying it'll be cold, on the contrary actually, but the average February temperature is still 18 degrees, which is like 64.5 Fahrenheit. But yeah, it's a lot easier to cope with than the July and August averages of 27.5, and that's like in the middle of the two. But especially as you'll be walking around all the parks all day with like almost no air conditioning unless you're inside, it's gonna be like ridiculously hot. And especially as those parks don't really have much cover, they don't really have many trees, and if they do, they're palm trees, so you're not going to be getting much covering from that. But yeah, that's second reason. And the final reason, which is a big one, it's cheaper. Going during the early months of the year, while there are no major events going on, can save you a lot of money, as the companies, I'm assuming, will lower the prices to match the uneventfulness of the period. You'll still get a fantastic holiday with like, especially because Universal does have an event going on during that time, which is Mardi Gras, and all the travel agencies seem to be forgetting that that's on. But that's near the end of February, during maybe half term, going on to that. That's another reason, half term. But yeah, it's a win scenario for you. So tip number 4 is to go for at least 2 weeks. Now, I know this may be a no-brainer, but if you really want to visit every single one of the parks, then this is an essential part of your holiday. Like, remember that there are like 9 main parks in Florida. There's also 4 water parks and SeaWorld's Discovery Cove, if you don't really count that as a water park. And like some of the parks even will like take 2 days to do, which is like the bigger ones. So definitely do at least 2 weeks. 3 is probably optimal. Any more than that will be a bit too much, but 3 is definitely the sweet spot if you want to do everything with like enough room to like have chill out days in between. Basically, if you want a calm day or two and you want to go and see, for example, the Everglades stuff, or just chill out in your villa, go in the pool, it's a lot easier for that. But tip number 5 is to make sure that you visit every single one of the parks. Theme parks, I mean. Like, I remember when I went to Florida, I didn't go to Busch Gardens, and it has annoyed me ever since the trip that we didn't go there. Like, the other parks there were absolutely amazing. It's brilliant. But I was so annoyed about Busch Gardens, considering they've got so many good roller coasters and themings, alright, I've heard. But yeah, it was very annoying not to go. So, and you'll regret it if you don't go. So definitely go to as many parks as you want. So like, go to all the parks, like the Disney parks, Universal, the SeaWorld parks, Busch Gardens is one of them. And also make sure you try and go to Legoland, because that will be included on something I'll be telling you about in the next video. But yeah, it's like very easy to miss out a park and then say, oh damn it, I wish I'd gone to that park, and it will annoy you for a long time. But yeah, that's the first 5 tips in planning a successful Florida holiday. And as I said, I'm splitting this in 2 halves, so I'm sorry for that, but I don't really want to overwork my editor. So yeah, that's part 1, and next part will be going up as soon as Joe's edited it. So please leave a like on the video and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you can be notified when part 2 goes up. But yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.